Okay, so picture this, right? A silver snake just lying there in the grass right outside a house that's got magic protecting it.
Hmm. Not exactly a warm welcome mat.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It makes you think something's really wrong, right? Like there's a huge problem, some kind of danger that got past these defenses that should have been, impossible to break.
Right.
And that image, that unsettling feeling is kind of where we're starting today on the deep dive. One of our listeners sent us some amazing material. It's like getting a top secret briefing, pulling us into this young woman's life, and she's navigating a society that's totally hidden, full of these supernatural predators, and she's caught up in some seriously intense relationships.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. What we're looking at are excerpts from Frostbite by Richelle Mead, and they give us this really immersive look inside this place called St. Vladimir's Academy. We see everything through the eyes of Rose Hathaway. She's a Dhampir, which is this fascinating mix of human and vampire, and her job is to be a guardian.
A guardian, I mean, that sounds pretty
Oh,
intense.
trust me, her life is anything but boring.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So our mission today on this deep dive is to really get what Rose's world is all about. We're going to look at the rules, the threats, the relationships that shape everything she goes through. Think of it as your crash course on the key players and the big events happening in her story.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so let's start with the basics. This whole idea of Moroi, Dhampir, and Strigoi. Can you break it down for us?
Absolutely. So you've got two main types of vampires in this world. First, you've got the Moroi. They're mortal, they're peaceful, and they have this elemental magic, like controlling the elements, earth, air, fire, water, even spirit.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? They live among humans, but mostly in secret, keeping a low profile. And then you've got the Dhampir like Rose. They're the protectors, the guardians of the Moroi. They come from relationships between Moroi and humans. But here's the interesting thing. Moroi women mostly have Moroi babies.
So what means?
It means you end up with a lot of single Dhampir mothers raising their kids. And the ones who choose to become guardians, they're really dedicated to this life. It's a tough job, right? Protecting the Moroi from the Strigoi.
The Strigoi. Yeah, even the name sounds kind of scary.
And for good reason, they're the real bad guys in this world, immortal, and they have to kill to survive. They're ruthless.
Yeah.
The whole Dhampir culture, they're training their entire purpose. It all comes down to protecting the Moroi from the Strigoi. That's the foundation of their society.
So we've got Moroi, magical but vulnerable, Dhampir, the tough protectors, and Strigoi, the ultimate predator. Now, these excerpts also show us some really powerful relationships, especially the bond between Rose and Lissa, who's a Moroi princess. Seems like it goes way beyond friendship.
Oh, yeah. Their connection is something else. Lissa isn't just any Moroi, she's royalty.
Yeah.
And her link to Rose, it's not your average friendship. There's this really defining moment in their past, a terrible car accident that killed Lissa's family, and
Yep.
Rose too, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's intense. In that moment of total chaos, Lissa, without even knowing it, used this rare and powerful magic called spirit magic, and it brought Rose back from the dead.
She brought her back to life.
She did. Neither of them knew about spirit magic at that point. They didn't even know it existed. But that event, it created this incredibly strong bond between them, almost mystical. Their fates are totally intertwined, and it sets the stage for all these incredible things to happen.
Wow. Brought back to life by your best friend using magic neither of you knew about? It's a bond you don't break easily. But it sounds like this connection attracted some unwanted attention. Enter Victor Dashkov.
Exactly. Victor Dashkov is a Moroi prince, and as we learn from these excerpts, he's dying. He finds out about Lissa's spirit abilities and sees it as his last shot at survival, a way to cheat death, basically.
That's pretty desperate.
It is, and he tries to use her power in some really messed up ways. He tries to control both Rose and her mentor Dimitri with a lust spell. Can you believe that?
A lust spell, really.
Yeah, and it gets even worse. Dashkov also manipulates his own daughter Natalie and pushes her to become Strigoi as part of his twisted plans.
That's just awful.
It is. It
Yeah.
shows how dark things can get within the Moroi court. The dangers Rose and Lissa face, they come from both inside and outside their society.
That's chilling. Speaking of Dmitri Belikov, Rose's mentor, there were definitely some hints of a powerful, maybe even forbidden attraction between them.
Dimitri is the classic dedicated guardian. He's incredibly skilled, and the excerpts describe him in a way that makes him sound really attractive. Tall, lean, build dark eyes, shoulder-length brown hair. It's clear Rose is drawn to him, but there are some major obstacles in their way. He's her instructor, and there's probably an age difference too.
Right, that makes sense.
And most importantly, they're both committed to protecting Lissa. Our relationship between them could put everything at risk. There's also the fact that Dimitri had to kill Natalie Dashkov after she turned Strigoi. That adds another layer of complexity to their relationship.
Forbidden love with your mentor who also had to kill someone connected to the very threat you're fighting.
Mm.
That's a lot to deal with. And then there's Rose's mother, Janine Hathaway. Their relationship sounds pretty intense too, but in a different way.
Janine is a force to be reckoned with. She's a formidable guardian, and she has incredibly high expectations for Rose. There's a lot of tension between them, even a physical fight. It seems like they clash on a fundamental level. Maybe they have different ideas about what it means to be a guardian.
So Rose is dealing with all of this, the incredible bond with Lissa, the dark side of Moroi politics, the forbidden feelings for Dimitri, and a strained relationship with her own mother. And then this new terrifying threat emerges, the attack on the Boudica family. Tell us about that.
This is where things really take a turn. Rose and Dimitri are sent to protect Arthur Schoenberg and his family. They're a secluded Moroi royal line, and what they find is truly disturbing. The magical ward protecting the house, it's been broken.
Broken. But how?
That's the scary part. They find a silver stake placed outside the house. Silver is deadly to Strigoi, and wards are powered by life magic, something Strigoi don't have. So the fact that a silver stake was used to break the ward, it raises some serious questions.
A silver stake, the weapon of the Guardians. It's like someone used their own defenses against them.
Exactly, and it gets worse. The scene inside the house is horrific. The entire Boudica family has been massacred. Even Arthur Schoenberg, who was a legendary guardian known for his strength and vigilance.
A legendary guardian killed? That must have sent shockwaves through their entire society.
Absolutely. But the most unsettling thing is the fact that a silver stake was used to break the ward. Strigoi can't touch silver, and no Moroi or Dhampir would ever intentionally weaken a ward to let Strigoi in. So that leads to a terrifying conclusion. Humans might be working with the Strigoi.
Humans helping Strigoi. That changes everything. It means their enemies are even more dangerous and their defenses might not be enough. Now, the excerpts also mention some internal conflicts within Moroi society itself, right?
Yeah, there's definitely tension between the noble and royal Moroi families. It seems like there are power struggles going on. And then there's Christian Ozera. He faces prejudice and suspicion just because his parents chose to become Strigoi. Even though they're dead, that shadow of doubt still hangs over him.
So he's being punished for something he had no control over. That adds a whole other layer of complexity to their world. And then we meet Pasha Ozera, Christian's aunt. She has some pretty radical ideas about the role of guardians and Moroi self-defense.
Tasha is a fascinating character. She survived a brutal Strigoi attack, but she carries a scar as a reminder of that trauma. It's made her incredibly strong and determined. She's a skilled fighter, and she eventually moves to Minneapolis to teach self-defense to other Moroi.
Right.
She believes that Moroi shouldn't just rely on Dhampir for protection. They need to learn how to defend themselves. And her views gain a lot of support, especially after the attack on the Boudica family. People start to question the traditional ways of doing things.
That makes sense. When even a legendary guardian can be killed, people start looking for new solutions. So while all this is happening, Rose is still going through her guardian training. How's that going amidst all the chaos?
Her training with Dimitri is still a big part of her life, and it's not always easy. There's this one scene where they're practicing with stakes and Rose realizes she doesn't even know where the heart is. It's a funny moment, but it also shows that even in this extraordinary world, learning takes time and everyone makes mistakes.
Not knowing where the heart is when you're training to kill vampires. There's a certain irony to that. And it's no surprise that those intense training sessions with Dimitri are making her feelings for him even stronger. But it's not just vampires and forbidden romance Rose has to deal with. We also hear about a physical fight with her own mother. That sounds pretty serious.
It is. It shows just how bad their relationship is. The fact that they actually come to blows and Rose ends up with a black eye, it speaks volumes about the tension between them. And then there's Lissa, who's starting to get romantically involved with Christian Rose, is understandably jealous as their friendship changes, and Lissa's attention is divided.
So Rose is dealing with a lot, both personally and on a larger scale. And then there's this subtle but intriguing hint of something unusual happening to her after Lissa brought her back to life. This shadow-kissed nature. What's that all about?
The excerpts don't give us all the details, but Rose has this vivid dream involving another Moroi royal, Adriana Voshkov, and it suggests that there's something more to her connection to spirit magic. Maybe she absorbed some of the darker aspects of it from Lissa when she was brought back to life. It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
So just when you think things can't get any more dramatic, they all go on a ski trip.
Yeah.
That sounds like a perfect setting for some intense interactions and maybe even some danger.
It's supposed to be a break, a chance to relax. But of course, trouble follows them. We're introduced to Adriana Voshkov. He's a charming but kind of reckless Moroi royal, and Rose is immediately drawn to him. But the fun doesn't last long. The Drozdov family, another royal Moroi line, is attacked in a way that's very similar to the Batica massacre.
Oh no.
It confirms everyone's fears. The Strigoi are organized, they're targeting royal families.
Two royal families attacked the same way. This is a serious escalation. And it's during this time of fear and uncertainty that Tasha Ozera gives her powerful speech, right?
Exactly. Her speech is a turning point. She argues that Moroi need to take responsibility for their own safety. She questions why the burden of protection falls almost entirely on the Dhampir, especially the women. Her words resonate with a lot of people, especially after the recent attacks.
She's challenging the status quo, demanding a change in how they approach survival. Now, with all this going on, Rose finds herself drawn to two very different Moroi men, the intense connection with Dimitri and the undeniable charm of Adrian. How does she handle those feelings?
Her interactions with both Dimitri and Adrian show us her inner struggle. She's still deeply affected by her feelings for Dimitri, and she even tries to provoke a reaction from him. Adrian, on the other hand, is very open about his interest in her. It complicates things for Rose. Then there's also this brief romantic encounter with Mason Ashford.
So she's exploring her options, trying to figure out what she really wants. And then there's the grand gesture of the perfume. A whole box of it delivered to Rose. That sounds like Adrian's style.
Oh yeah, it's a classic Adrian move, over the top and designed to get her attention, but Rose is smart. She knows that a relationship with him could be complicated. And things get even more tense when Dimitri finds Rose, Lissa, and Adrian together in Adrian's room.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it leads to a confrontation. Dimitri's worried about Rose, and we later learn that he even goes to talk to her mother, probably to express his concerns.
So Dimitri, despite his own feelings, is still looking out for Rose. But while all this personal drama is happening, the threat of the rogue Strigoi is still very real. What do Dimitri and Janine discover in their investigation?
They start to see a pattern in the attacks. They realize that the Strigoi are working with humans. They get information about vehicles used in the attacks. It shows a level of organization that's really worrying. And this, combined with Mia's desire for revenge for her mother's death, leads Rose to make a very impulsive decision.
She decides to go after the Strigoi herself, doesn't she? With Mason, Eddie, and Mia, a rogue Strigoi hunt in Spokane.
Exactly. They're driven by grief and a need for vengeance. But they're also inexperienced and unprepared. It's a risky move, and tragically, it leads them right into a trap set by the humans working with the Strigoi.
Kidnapped by humans working with Strigoi, the worst-case scenario has become reality. What happens to them?
It's a horrifying experience. They come face to face with the Strigoi, including one that looks a lot like Natalie Dashkov, and the Strigoi leader Isaiah gives them an impossible choice. One of the Moroi, Christian or Mia, has to kill one of the Dhampir, Rose, Mason, or Eddie for the rest of them to survive.
That's a cruel and twisted ultimatum. How does Christian react?
He refuses. He absolutely refuses to kill his friends, even if it means his own death. It's a powerful moment. It shows his strength and loyalty.
That's incredible. But their refusal doesn't set them free. How do they manage to escape?
Christian, even though he's weak, manages to use his fire magic to create a distraction. It gives them a chance to fight back and try to escape. They manage to overpower some of their human captors. But as they're trying to get away, they're ambushed by Isaiah and another Strigoi named Elena.
It's a fight for their lives. And in that fight, they suffer a terrible loss.
Yes, Mason Ashford is killed by Isaiah. It's a brutal and sudden death, and it's a devastating loss for everyone, especially Rose.
I can't imagine what Rose must have felt witnessing that. How does she react?
At first, she's overcome with grief and shock, but then that grief turns into rage. She attacks Elena with everything she's got, and in the end, she kills her. It's a turning point for Rose. We see a fierceness and a strength in her that we haven't seen before.
Killing a Strigoi. That's a huge thing, especially for someone who's still in training. What happens after the fight?
Dimitri and the other Guardians arrive. Rose completely breaks down. It's only then that she really lets herself process the trauma of what happened. Afterwards, she receives 2 Melnija marks the tattoos that signify a Guardian's kill of a Strigoi. One for Isaiah and one for Elena.
2 Melnija marks, a heavy price to pay, but also a symbol of her courage and her actions. How does Rose cope with returning to the academy after such a horrific experience?
She's changed. The other students see her differently now, with a mix of admiration and maybe even fear. Eddie, who was also kidnapped, understands what she went through. Lissa is still struggling with her spirit powers, and Adrian surprisingly offers some insight into the darkness he senses within Rose. It probably has something to do with her being shadow-kissed, and the tension between Dimitri and Rose is still there. But Dimitri seems to understand Rose on a deeper level now. He knows about her connection to spirit magic.
So this deep dive into Rose Hathaway's world in Frostbite has been quite a journey. What are the key things our listeners should take away from this glimpse into her life?
Well, firstly, the world of the Moroi and Dhampir is more complicated and dangerous than it first appears. There's political intrigue, the constant threat of the Strigoi, and incredibly high stakes for everyone involved. Secondly, the fact that Strigoi are working with humans is a game changer. It means the danger is even greater, and the old ways of protecting themselves might not be enough anymore.
Right. It's a whole new level of threat.
Exactly. And thirdly, the relationships in this world are messy. There's forbidden love, duty, family drama. Rose is dealing with all of it. And finally, we see the impact of trauma on Rose. The way she reacts to Mason's death and her actions afterwards show how such a horrific experience can change someone completely. It can make you stronger, but it also leaves scars.
It's a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. So after this deep dive into Rose's world, it makes you wonder what will happen next, especially with Rose being shadow-kissed and Adrian sensing that darkness within her. What does it all mean? How will it affect her and the balance of power in their world? It's something to think about. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Rose's experiences, we encourage you to read the entire Vampire Academy series and see how everything unfolds. It's a great series with so much to explore. There are themes of duty, sacrifice, prejudice, and the blurred lines between those who protect and those who are protected. You won't be disappointed.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.